one of our biggest challenges is the fact that we operate across multiple markets with multiple regulations, with how you deal with this medical product, multiple languages, multiple ways of having to hire and keep staff. And so for us, it's been really almost a game of growth and localization at the same time.
Hello and welcome to a new HelloMaster podcast. My name is Louise. I'm the founder of HelloMasters, and we bring this podcast together with Frank Watching. In this episode, we're talking to Sean Peron, who is the marketing director of Ace Tate. And for those who don't know Ace Tate, it's a Dutch scale-up that is currently operating in 10 European markets, and they're really disrupting the eyewear sector. They call themselves the first online glass brand. And the difference between Ace Tate and the traditional eyewear brands are huge. The pricing is different, the transparency, and also their omnichannel strategy. They started online, but yet they have 70 stores, and it's really becoming a well-known player in the retail sector. Ace Tate started 7 years ago. They're currently active in 10 markets, and they employ over 700 people. And it's the first fashion brand on a HelloMasters podcast. I even got dressed up for this one. So today we're talking to the director of marketing at Ace Tate, Sean Peron. And although he was born in the US, he is very much a man of the world and lived and worked in 5 countries. His reputation as a marketing and brand leader in fashion led him to the role at Ace Tate. Sean started out in Japan. He was working there as a model, an actor, and a news reporter. He later joined a British eyewear brand to grow their Japanese market. So from Japan all the way to Europe, Sean finished his MBA and then worked for Diesel and started at the branding department at Adidas. 3 years later, he moved to G-Star, another fashion brand, where he joined as a global brand director. In 2019, he joined Ace Tate to head up the marketing department and growth. So some fun facts about Sean: he speaks fluent Japanese and he's on board of the Dutch Fencing Association. So in this HelloMasters, Sean and I talk about his team, omnichannel strategy, and fashion marketing. Don't forget to subscribe to HelloMasters on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. In 2 weeks' time, we dive into B2B marketing and talk to the marketing strategist at Exact, the well-known accounting software. Now, let's get right into the episode with Ace Tate's Sean Peron. Happy listening. So welcome, viewers and listeners, to a brand new HelloMasters podcast. And today we have a very interesting marketing lead into our, virtual studio, I would say. We have Sean Peron, who hails originally from the US, but I think it's fair to say that you're truly, a global world citizen that has been calling Amsterdam home for, I think, the last 5 years.
That's right. Yes. Good morning.
Yeah. Well, welcome. How are things with you?
Yeah, things are great. Sun is shining here in Amsterdam, as you know, so I can't complain about that.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here on the Friday morning. So before we hit off and go very deep into Ace Tate and how this, very quickly became an iconic brand in eyewear in the Netherlands, I would love to actually do a little test with you because I have 2 reading glasses here.
All right, let's go into it.
And
yes.
They look fairly similar. One is, for me, the other one is for my wife. We kind of have a similar eyewear taste, I guess.
Very good.
But they're not from the same store. One of them, is from Ace Tate, and the other one is not. So I'm just going to put them on, and then you should guess which one is from Ace Tate.
Oh man, this is going to be tough.
I know. So this is the first one.
Okay.
I'm just going to turn around so you can have a good look.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try this one on.
That one's Ace Tate.
Okay, bingo. You know your product. So this is a great start, for a marketer, because you have to know your product, right? Otherwise you can't sell it. So big score, Shane. So we're into it, right? Nicely. So, so tell me a little bit about your journey. What brought you to Amsterdam? What brought you to Ace Tate?
Yeah, very good indeed, like you said, and thank you for the nice introduction. I originally hail from the US and I've been here in the Netherlands since about 2015, but
Mm-hmm.
indeed, more or less since I graduated university a long, long time ago, I left the US and have traveled and moved in different places.
Mm-hmm.
And have been very lucky to be able to have different experiences and work in different organizations along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the way, somehow, very randomly, but very interestingly, eyewear kind of always followed me.
Mm.
I wear eyewear, and I'm fairly blind without it. And funny enough, one of the side jobs that I had when I was in university was to work in an eyewear shop.
Mm.
This was in London, 2001, 2002. And lo and behold, 6 years later, 7 years later, I was representing that brand in Asia and building their marketing and sales there, completely coincidentally almost.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, here we are, another 10 years later, and here I am with another eyewear brand. So in some ways, I guess I have to say that I never thought that eyewear was going to be something that was going to stay with me forever. But somehow in my career, it's kind of always come back. And when I had the opportunity to join Ace Tate about just a little bit under 2 years ago, I thought it was a fantastic opportunity because, again, coming from eyewear is great, but also the business model is so fundamentally different than how traditional opticians work, how other eyewear brands have worked in the past. So it's also been a great place for me to, let's say, hone my marketing skills and to dive into a different opportunity.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And you kind of have a background where you not only lived in 5 countries, but you also, finished your MBA and you worked for a lot of fashion brands, right? So this.
Yeah, it's I think, how do I say this? Like I've always had a little bit of an interest in taste, not so much in fashion, but I suppose more on the design and the creative side of things. So my undergraduate was also in creative writing, and I've always been kind of leaning towards the area of self-expression, and I was really quite interested with design and clothing design for quite a long time. And of course, eyewear is also another design piece. It's about self-expression, and that's kind of followed me along my career in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a creative. I know that I cannot draw. My writing is, good enough, but not great.
Mm-hmm.
But I like working with creative people. I
Mm-hmm.
like helping them bring their ideas to life. I get really excited about connecting ideas with people outside, and I think that the industry of, let's say, fashion design is a great place for that because you're just able to work and be surrounded by very talented individuals.
Yeah, for sure. So what are the things that you enjoy doing when you're not working?
Yeah, it's also an interesting question. In many ways, I think today, like work really takes over your lives, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
have to say, especially the last year or so, with COVID, it's quite easy just to kind of keep working and keep working, keep working, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to, in a way, find things that kind of force me out of my work state.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, really try now more than ever to really turn off work and do things that take me to very different places. So, of course, like I think a lot of us are doing right now, and it's kind of boring, but it's still very true. I love going for walks. So here in Amsterdam, as you know, we have a big kind of forest, the Amsterdamse Bos, which I don't live too far from. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to go for long walks there. And I like to read. I read a lot of fiction, a lot of history. Try to do as many things as possible that has very little to do with the day-to-day of work,
Yeah,
because I find somehow for me that really helps me come back fresh.
yeah,
And finding that balance is definitely an important part.
yeah. So do you have a favorite book you recently read that you can recommend to the
Favorite
listeners?
book. Let's see here. I'm a big fan of I think he's a pretty well known writer, Japanese fiction writer called Haruki Murakami.
Mm-hmm.
He's wrote quite a lot of like postmodern fiction books. He's got a great book I can definitely recommend. So his books are a little bit strange. Let's start there. And let's say an acquired taste. So the
Mm-hmm.
deeper you go, the better it gets. But if you haven't read anything from Murakami before, I can definitely read what I talk about when I talk about running.
Oh,
So
yes.
he's an avid runner.
Yeah, I know that one.
He does like ultra marathons, and he explains how almost the meditative process of running allows him to become a better rider and the balance between those things. That's a fantastic book. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. So I'd love to just ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
I showed you mine Ace and Tate classes. So
Yeah.
you wear one yourself, but do you have a whole collection? Like, kind of, how do you decide what eyewear to wear yourself?
Yeah, I have quite a lot of glasses. And the fun thing about eyewear in general is that it lasts very long. It's kind of a strange thing to say, but especially like in the world of fashion where things change all the time, um, and especially in the world of fast fashion where even just things don't last as long, eyewear can last for a very long time. So I quite like having just a few key styles that kind of stay with you and that you can wear with anything. So I'm wearing what's called the Robert. I'll kind of lean in. You can see it here.
Nice.
And for quite a long time, I wore frames actually similar to what you just showed. So that's made from what we call acetate, which is a polymer that has a little bit more of a crystal feel to it. And when I started working at Ace Tate, I tried on metal, which I'm quite enjoying right now. So these are quite nice. They're just round frames, but a little bit of a, I guess, like a square shape here,
Yeah.
made in titanium, and they're quite nice.
Very
And
cool.
these ones have inside them what we call a blue light filter,
Yeah.
and that blocks out the blue light that's emitted from screens, which for me is quite helpful since probably like you and a lot of people watching and listening, I spend
Yeah.
a lot of time on screens.
Exactly. Yeah, and it does help, particularly when you work in the evening, to kind of you sleep a little bit better when you wear those lights on. Cool.
Definitely.
So as a marketer, kind of what is your favorite marketing tool, or just your favorite tool to work with on a day-to-day basis?
I think if the team heard this, they kind of laugh. But right now, I am obsessed with Trello.
Oh, me too. I
Are
love
you
it.
for real? Really?
Yes, it's such a great way to keep control of what's happening and still, build an autonomous team. But why do you love it?
You just said it precisely. I think I am definitely a person built for human interaction. So the last year or so has been quite tough for myself and for our teams to find ways, exactly like you said, to help keep people working autonomously, but also just to connect people. And we had been kind of just casually using Trello for quite a long time. And it was about, I think last summer maybe even when we first spoke, I was really spending a lot of time researching agile marketing and talking to the developers and the IT department, our team, kind of understanding how they work because they work so well remotely.
Yeah.
And we just dove into it, and now I love it because I know everyone in the team is working on things, but I'm able to kind of just look and see where we are and know if we're on track or not. And this is my obsession. So every morning I just wake up, open up the old Trello, see what's going on.
Cool. Very nice.
Yeah.
So if you kind of look at favorite marketing channels, maybe from a business perspective, and then maybe we can answer the social media channels maybe from a professional perspective. But what marketing channels do you really enjoy working with?
Yeah, it's funny. Like maybe this isn't as much from. Well, actually, no. There's definitely a business connection to it. So I guess I like the things you can't have, and I really, really miss the IRL channels, in real life channels. I think especially around before COVID really started kicking off, you saw in general a big shift in marketing to go back to actual human experiences. So whether that's events, activations, you even had in the US kind of big like consumer focused conferences happening.
Yeah.
And I think there was really good reason for that. I think there was really there's something to be gained from actually having direct interaction with your customers and letting them interact with each other.
Yeah.
As a business, we have so many stores as well, and they were great tools for us to get feedback. And I miss that. And I also think our customers miss that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and if you kind of look into social, I mean, there's, obviously a lot to do about social when it kind of became up and running in, 2013, 14. It was still the channel where, people had high expectations, for the betterment of society. And I think, after the last couple of years, we've seen the dark side of it as well. So what is kind of your own usage in social media?
Well, I think like from a business perspective, we use, of course, I think the classic social media channels that you see a lot of other players in our space are using. And for us, definitely Instagram is still an important one. It's evolved over the last year to become a place which is less of a just a place for us to deliver branded communications, but actually to have conversations and interaction with our community. So we are doing things more now, like answering questions about eye health, about giving people tips of how to stay balanced and healthy when they're using the screens all day. So in a way, I'm quite happy to see that shift where it's becoming a conversational tool. The other one for me, which is quite interesting, I don't know if it's really, I guess it's kind of a social media channel, but it's also a bit of a commercial platform, is Depop. I don't know if you're familiar with Depop.
No, what's that?
It's an app it's been out for a couple of years now, that started in the UK, which is it's actually a consumer-focused resale app. So it's a place where you can go in, and when you're finished wearing clothing, you can basically create a nice little profile and sell your used clothing to other people. And I quite like that, because there's real beautiful creation happening on that platform by individuals, not by brands, where they're almost kind of building their own little shop, which is quite fun. And also, in the world where we have so many things, it's quite nice to see a place where we are giving products a second life.
Yes, for sure.
So that one's quite nice.
Nice. Oh, that's a great tip. So
out.
let's talk a little bit about Ace and Tate. And I think you just answered the question secretly, but I was kind of wondering who's Ace and who's Tate. But
yes, indeed. So it's acetate, which is the material for which a good portion of our products are made from. It's a classic eyewear material made from, originally it's a polymer that's developed from plants. And the reason why it's so well used in the eyewear industry is because it has both flexibility, which is really important because you have to shape eyewear to your face, but also the way that it's built, you can actually create a lot of different interesting colors and dynamics. And over the years, that has really progressed, and we're at the place now where we're also able to do a lot more things sustainably with it, which is quite nice. So we're developing now and working with what we call bioacetate, which is acetate that doesn't really contain any sort of individual or additional plastic polymers inside of it, so that it can actually be composted over time.
Okay, interesting. So how would you explain the success of Ace and Tate? I mean, maybe you can take us quickly through the journey of how the company started.
Hello, Louise here. The HelloMaster podcast is powered by HelloMass and Frank Watching. So recently we launched a new tool, the HelloMass Playbook. With the HelloMass Playbook, you build your marketing action plan in 10 minutes. Fill in your marketing goals and our algorithm builds your marketing playbook. And the best thing, it's free and there are no strings attached. So go to hellomass.com/playbook.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's interesting for me as well to talk about this because I still consider myself fairly new to the game. So I have to give a lot of credit to all the individuals that have been part of Ace and Tate to bring us to this point in this journey. And of course, to the founder of Ace and Tate, Mark DeLong, was a brilliant guy who, of course, had the idea in the very beginning. Let's say, first of all, if we take a step back and we look at the eyewear industry holistically, and we were speaking about this a little bit before, it's a very old school industry, and in many ways for good reason. So on the one side, eyewear indeed is a fashion item, but on the other side, it's also a medical device. So maybe you have the same thing, but I certainly cannot see without my eyewear, and it is the case for a lot of people. So it's also regulated medically. But what you saw over time is that you had a lot of big players really dominating the industry. And when I say dominating the industry, I mean dominating the value chain. So really controlling materials, controlling supply and production of eyewear, and then controlling the sell-through of that. And that results for the customer in many places in transparency, why you're paying this price for a product. This, I think, was a little bit of the idea that kind of sparked our founder, Mark, to start Ace and Tate several years ago. And essentially what we try to do is take the intransparency out of the eyewear process, right? So it's about coming in and saying, listen, like if we are not adding all these additional bells and whistles to it, if we're not having to sell our product through a third party, we can offer just as good of quality as any of the other high-end eyewear brands, because it's for the most part coming through this, very similar or same supply chain, but at a better price. And I think what's quite interesting about this is that in that process, especially as we've evolved from being online and now also much more omnichannel and also in store as well, is we can really control the customer experience. We can invest a lot of time there to make sure that the customers actually feel cared for and are felt and are known when they come into the shops.
Yeah.
So that business model is quite interesting, but I think what's helped Ace and Tate stand out even from the competitor set, because that as a model isn't necessarily groundbreaking or alone to Ace and Tate, is a little bit of, let's call it like the brand aesthetic. You know, we call ourselves the eyewear brand for Gen Y and Gen Z. And it's our mission to become, hopefully, one day the number one eyewear brand for Gen Y and Gen Z if we keep working hard. And that means filling the experience with the aesthetic that we know that this customer would like.
Yeah.
There's a creative energy in the brand, which I think has really helped it to fuel over time. And so we're always in this flux of inserting and finding ways to give this kind of surprising brand aesthetic, but also make sure that we really understand the customer experience and we're really able to give the customer the best experience that they can get from any optician.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for taking us through this journey of indeed starting as an online first brand and now having, I think, about 70 stores.
That's
so
right.
what was the key, maybe one insight of, moving first online and then into clicks and bricks? Because it's definitely a different operating model with more fixed cost. I guess right now having all these stores is not going to be great on your balance sheet. So how are you kind of navigating that space?
Yeah, well, it is a product you put on your face, and it's a product you wear every day. So for many customers, you want to try it on. This is understandable. But again, I think the other important thing to remember is it is a medical device. So effectively, you need to get your eyes tested to be able to wear glasses. And you really, 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 really should get your eyes tested about usually around every 18 months, 2 years or so, you should have your eyes tested. So in a way, it became a very natural growth opportunity for us to move from really being a pure play online organization where the customer has to do this somewhere else. So we don't have any information. We can't control that experience. We know what's happening. And then they have to try glasses online or order at home. But they don't necessarily have the ability to try the whole collection or to get feedback from people or to talk to an optician. And this is when we started to make the shift offline. But for me, what's been really interesting, and I think if I look at, say, my career in marketing, what I've really enjoyed about working at Ace and Tate is that the online mentality is applied to retail, whereas in other places, what I've observed working with other organizations or talking with colleagues is that typically the retailer mentality is applied online.
Yeah, that's a very big difference. Yeah,
it's very different. So what this means is really using data and insight to understand customer experience and find ways to enhance it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has been one of the big tools for the success of Ace and Tate. And what we've been able to do with that is just be able to grow that and expand connection points with the brand by expanding through offline growth.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, you obviously know, particularly as a person hailing from the US, Warby Parker, which started this revolution in online. Online first eyewear and much more as a fashion brand. So how much did Ace and Tate copy from Warby Parker and just implemented it locally here in the Netherlands very well?
Well, I think Warby Parker happened around, they started, 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
And incidentally, more or less a similar time when Mark actually started the business model. And I think he kind of came to the similar, if you were to talk to Mark, he would tell you that he had a bit of a similar situation as the founders, where he was shopping, I think it was even in the US, in New York at the time, at an eyewear brand, and kind of walked in, wanting a pair of glasses, and walked out with $400 out of his pocket, not really sure what just happened.
Yeah.
And that inspiration is really where the brand started from. I think we've grown over the same period together, and I think overall Warby does a fantastic job of really creating a great customer experience in the U.S. But we've kind of moved in our own way. I think the experience itself, let's say the aesthetic and the energies of the brands are quite different, and I think also we've just had different challenges as organizations. One of our biggest challenges is the fact that we operate across multiple markets. with multiple regulations, with how you deal with this medical product, multiple languages, multiple ways of having to hire and keep staff. And so for us, it's been really almost a game of growth and localization at the same time.
Yeah, it's challenging.
And I think there's a lot of credit that can also be given, especially to the retail department here at Ace Tate for being able to overcome that, because that as a startup is quite a challenge.
Yeah. What are your key markets that you operate outside of the Netherlands?
So Germany is a big one for us, as I think it is for a lot of players here in Europe. The UK has also been traditionally a great market for us, as well as Belgium as well. Those are some of our larger markets. We've seen a lot of great growth recently in the Nordics as well. And when was it? I think end of 2019, we also moved into Spain. So we entered into our first Mediterranean country, and there we've got 2 stores right now.
So let's talk a little bit about your role. So you're heading up marketing, and we talked to a lot of CMOs, and marketing tended to be really much brand building and campaign 10, 15 years ago, and now it's turned into full-fledged strategic board level functions. So it can be very broad and very narrow. So share a little bit about your scope.
Yes, indeed, you're right about this. It feels like the role of the marketeer basically evolves or changes every 3 to 4 years, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. So my current role at Ace Tate basically encompasses, how do we say it? So on one side of the things, like the very classic growth, acquisition, retention functions that you see for the most part is consistent with marketing everywhere. So how are we acquiring new customers? How are we retaining those customers? And what's the opportunity there? The other side of that is indeed the brand building element as well. So for us at Ace Tate, we are in many ways a values driven brand. There's things that we really care about as an organization. We want the world to know about. We want our customers to know about. So spend a lot of time and a lot of my day to day really working with the founder, with our creative directors about how to bring that to life. And then the final element is being able to articulate to our customers the services and the products that we have. So working very close with the retail teams, with our customer experience teams, the customer service teams, to make sure that all the information that needs to be communicated to our customers is done in a clear, direct, understandable way.
Yeah. Are you also responsible for the e-commerce revenue, or do you have a peer for that?
We have a peer for that. So we look at in marketing actually bringing customers onto the platform.
Yeah.
And then I have a peer who's responsible for actually converting the customers that we bring on board and bringing the traffic and turning them into customers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So basically responsible for all the way from creating awareness down to delivering marketing qualified leads.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And then of course retaining those afterwards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, not unimportant. So you can learn a lot from your successes and also for your failures. So can you share one success at Ace Tate in the 2 years you've been there that you're very proud of?
Wow, that's a good question. I think one of the things that I'm proud of the brand, I'm proud to be a part about is the endeavor that Ace Tate's started doing, I think it was around 2018, to really invest in sustainability and responsibility. This has been a passion of mine for pretty much my entire career, and I was really proud to join the organization doing that. And one of the projects that we delivered last year, despite COVID, was a project called Reframe, which basically allows customers to be able to bring their products back in store. We recycle them. Where possible, and in many cases it is very possible, we can refurbish those frames, make them great quality, and then resell them to another owner. So we're basically creating circularity with our product.
Oh, that's great. It's a little bit like what Patagonia did also with
worn
repairing stuff. Yeah,
indeed.
Okay.
And
Cool.
and in a way, that's also where Depop came into play. So we have we've built a nice channel on Depop where we're able to also offer those frames. Basically great quality secondhand frames, and find them a new owner. And that's quite nice to be able to start to build circularity into the mix. So that's something I'm quite proud of as well.
Interesting. And you also learn from your challenges, or maybe even failures or fuck-ups. We always have a fuck-up Friday in our team, for instance, and it's not.
I wish only one day a week was fuck-up week Friday, right? That'd be nice.
Well, it's okay. You can talk about but only one fuck-up you can bring from the entire week.
That's a nice one. I might have to borrow that.
Yeah, it's actually really cool for the team. It builds, kind of a laugh about, sometimes things just fuck up, and that's okay. But it's actually creating a safe space to talk about it and maybe have a laugh. And, it's a good way to balance it off with all the focus on creating wins. But anyway, is there something, a learning that you had in your time there that you thought, oh, in retrospective, I would have done that differently, for instance?
Well, so many, geez. On the strategic side of things, and I find this quite interesting. Going across my career, I've been very lucky to work in different sizes of organizations. So, working in, for example, at Adidas in the global strategy team is a much bigger beast. And previous than I also worked at G-Star on the brand side, which is a very large retailer, but not, let's say, at the level of Adidas where you have basically individual corporations in every single market.
Yeah.
Then coming into Ace and Tate, which is in the process of transitioning from that startup to really that scale-up phase. And one of the things that, as a marketeer, if you want to make those transitions into different marketing business models, that you have to kind of learn is to really be very surgical in understanding which tactics you can bring with you as you make that transition,
Yes.
and which ones you have to basically learn. And I think, like many startups and many scale-ups, we're also very ambitious at Ace and Tate, right? We want to grow. We want to deliver our product to a wider set of customers. And when first starting, for me, like I really wanted to inject into Ace and Tate a lot of the bigger awareness tools that I've seen work in larger organizations. But the reality is for us is that we're at a phase where we're still having to make investments step by step. So, if it's a larger organizations, maybe you can just toss a ton of money at an organization. But when you're in a startup, you can't do that. You have to think really about taking little tools and little baby steps. And that's something that took me a little while to adjust. But that's something I really enjoy learning.
Yeah, it's definitely true that there's a lot of difference in your operating model as a marketing lead in a more corporate, well-structured environment versus the nimbleness and the agility that you need to
100%.
embody. Yeah,
and the
sure.
flexibility there. And I think
Yeah.
it's especially when you if your experience is in brand building and there is, let's say, like I don't want to call it a classical way of doing brand building in larger organizations, but there's the brand is a big moving machine that takes big actions. And as you come into smaller organizations that still have brand aspirations, you have to start to learn that actually brand can be done in very big ways, but also in very small tactical ways. Like, random example, probably for us, I would argue at Ace and Tate, our most effective marketing channel to date has been our tote bags. Right? It's so funny. Like if I was working at Adidas, I would not even be thinking about this.
No.
But these tote bags, they're beautiful organic cotton tote bags. You see them all over the streets here, in Amsterdam and Berlin and London, have been fantastic tools for this. So when we open new stores, we'll work with a local designer. We'll make a limited edition tote bag. We'll give them to customers.
Yep.
Customers love them. We see more and more in our customer surveys that peer-to-peer recommendation is a huge driver for people to hear about us, and we know they're an important tool for us.
It's very interesting, actually. You bring me back to the Web Summit in Lisbon. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I was there, I guess, a year ago or 2 years ago, I forget. But anyway, pre-COVID. And there was PVH had a huge booth there with all their innovation and digital stuff. But next to it, there was also, print shop where you can get, a high quality tote bag that you could personalize, and the line was just enormous. And this was a tech conference with all these, lots of cool stuff that you can do. And I just think the tacit nature of having just something feasible that is also personalized, goes a long way. So 100%. Great story.
Yeah, 100%. And also, the more you work in marketing, the easier it is to actually forget what it is to be a non-marketeer, if this makes sense.
Yeah.
You probably have this too. Like, you cannot help but look at social media through the lens of marketing strategy, but this is not how most individuals, non-marketeers, view it.
Yeah,
most people don't go to shops thinking about this customer experience. They're there to buy something.
Yeah.
And a tote bag is a fantastic example of this. Like, very few people care about your big, crazy ad campaign, and very few people probably even saw it unless they're in your consideration set in the first place. But this is a product that's actually valuable for them and is fun.
Yeah.
And I think the more you move into the startup and scale-up space as a marketeer, the more you have to really remember the simple things are often the most effective things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. So in the last kind of 10 minutes, I would love to talk a little bit about your team, and then maybe a couple of things around what's happening now in COVID with some campaigns maybe, or some channels. So can you share, a little bit about your team? How big is it? What skills? Your culture?
So we are. How do I say this the right way? So in the space of being a startup and scale up, like the teams are always constantly evolving, and we're always tweaking with the right function. Right now, our marketing department and our internal creative team kind of now surfacing as one organization. So we're a bit of a marketing creative. I call us the crocketing team. So that's why the copywriters don't let me in their meetings anymore. But nonetheless, this has also been the result, I think, of over the last year working with Trello, kind of needing to help people really work with each other virtually, because you can't go over and talk to somebody. You can't walk upstairs and meet the other departments. You kind of have to really find systems and tools to help people really feel like one team.
Yep.
So within that department, of course, we have the growth part of the organization that's focusing on performance growth, retention. That's an important part for us. We have a part of the organization that is looking at the retail experience and making sure that the customer journey is optimizing. We're able to do great campaign storytelling when possible in the stores that are open, and utilize our storefronts as marketing communication tools. We have a core marketing strategy team that's thinking about that content, how do we bring that to life. And we have a communications department that is geared on looking at our community through social media and how we leverage them and how we have conversations with them, but also how we develop those conversations and expand them into earned media.
Yeah. We heard from another Dutch scale-up, a very big one, that they just only focus on content and PR, also earned and owned. And they try to kind of get off the ad tech crack, so to speak. What is kind of your view on that?
Yeah, it's the place where I think you're going to see a lot of disruption in the next couple of years, precisely because of how people are actually responding to the over adding of digital media. One place for us, I have to say, within the digital landscape that has been very successful, and we spend a lot of time on, is on more of the demand-based side of things. So particularly in search, because we again, especially on the medical service side of things, we have to create awareness for our brand within this space. But the needs base is already there. People need glasses. People are concerned about their eye health. People are actively searching for that. And we have tools, services, products, and actually that can really help people. So we spend a lot of time really looking in that space and understanding how we can be there when customers are looking for us, if this makes sense.
Yep.
The other side of that is exactly like you said. I think for a lot of organizations, it's, of course, a very expensive place to play in when you're in the world of auction-based media. And so we do indeed spend a lot of our effort looking at earned media, developing relationships with journalists, and finding ways to get our message out in places that are authenticated by other professionals and other experts.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Hello, Louise here from HelloMasters. So how do you arrange your marketing operations? Do you build everything in-house? Do you outsource everything to an agency or maybe even multiple agencies? We have a new solution for you. It's called the HelloMasters Flex Team. We create a team of marketing experts that fit your company and culture. They work freelance and on demand, and they think along with your strategy and provide extra execution power when you need it. Go to hellomasters.com/flexteam and build your flex team today.
Can you share a little bit of what's coming down the pike in 2021?
A couple of things. So one is that there is definitely a shift that's happened through COVID that will not change. over that time, what we've seen with our customers, and I think I mentioned this a little bit more, is there's much more awareness, particularly for eye health, because we spend so much time on our screens. We get a lot of this anecdotal feedback from our opticians. We have professional opticians in each one of our 70 stores, and we listen to the questions that customers come in with eye tests, and so many people are asking us about the effect of screen time on your eyes. And we see there an opportunity for us to leverage our products, our services, our skill set to help our customers. We're also this year, which I think is going to be exciting for us, looking to expand to new products and new categories. So we will be launching in about the middle of March also Ace Tate contact lenses, which is pretty exciting. So we're starting first with being able to offer that to our existing customers, and we're looking to be able to expand that to wider customers throughout the year.
And what's your differentiation with, because it's not like you can't differentiate on the quality of your your glasses, and the fashion element is probably a bit challenging there on the product side. So how can you kind of differentiate there?
Well, we know a majority of our customers are already wearing contact lenses. So it might be like, for example, in my case, where I wear them for sport. Or it might be that, like many customers, that we like to switch in between. But what we see right now is that as a customer, you're basically going to one place to buy your glasses and go to someplace else to buy your contacts. And there's still a lot of intransparency built into that product as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we're effectively doing something very similar to what we've been doing with eyewear, which is building contacts directly with the supplier to be able to create, provide high-quality contact lenses as good as anything else. But actually, we're working with one of the best suppliers in the world at a better quality to price ratio. And it's much easier for you because you can come to Ace Tate and we can help you basically understand your eye and help solve any eye problems you have and keep your eyes healthy and happy.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Hopefully our customers will like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, stay tuned for that coming down in March. So I want to wrap up with some questions from our listeners. We always post that we're recording these ahead of time, so people that follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook can submit some questions. So we got two good ones.
Cool.
So Sander Hogedorn asked, and I think you explained it a little bit, but it might be nice just to answer his question succinctly in one line maybe. What is the secret to building the Ace Tate brand?
So honestly, it's hard work.
It's tough.
Oh my God. And it's like, I think this is the thing about brand building that it's also hard to understand because it's very ethereal, but it's about deciding up front what the values are. What do you care about? So Ace Tate, we say three things we care about. We care about creativity and inspiration. So we love working with creatives. We care about sustainability and trying to reduce our impact on the environment. And we care about delivering a great customer service experience. Those three things. And basically, when you have those in place, your job is to find all the ways to activate those things within the guardrails that keep you true to your art and keep executing and keep executing and keep executing. So unfortunately, it's hard work.
It is, and multifaceted. Yeah,
Totally.
Well, thanks for sharing. But I think that trifecta of those three elements makes a lot of sense as kind of your framework. So the last question we have from Frank Mineur, who asked, why is it that the eyewear industry can stunt with promotions like get 3 glasses and only pay for 1?
Yes, it has very much to do with what we spoke about earlier, which is about intransparency and margin and product quality effectively. So we don't offer those discounts because we believe that you should get the product, you should pay for the product at the right price for the right quality. If we were able to do that, create large discounts, basically what we're saying is that the other pricing model is not transparent.
No, exactly. And you probably pay too much when you just pay normal rates. Yeah, for sure. Well, it was wonderful to talk to you, Sean. I think we covered a lot. We went really deep. We got to know you, your passion, your company, your team, and what's coming down the pike. So I really want to thank you and wish you well. I hope the stores can open up again soon, so you can go full 360 in your customer journey.
I hope so as well.
Right.
And hopefully we get to meet in person at that point as well.
That would be so lovely because, your store in the Negenstraat is very close to our office. So
great.
in case you're there, just pop by and we can grab a coffee or go for a walk.
Now we're talking. Very good.
That's great.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Ciao.